John Heilemann, let me start with you. Happy everything. Happy Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. We wanted to start with what lays ahead because we're heading into, and maybe in our holiday stupor and all, what could be really the crescendo, as I said before, of all of these weird intersecting dynamics. Trump's war on the election, Trump's attacks on the GOP, the Wall Street Journal, sort of whatever that's called in football, where you run ahead of the guy with carrying the ball and protecting McConnell from what looks like possible defeat for the two Republicans there. Where are we?
Well, yes, we are right here on the precipice, right? This is like, I think the phrase you might have been looking for in there is the crescendo of crazy. And this is it, right? We finally got here. It's like, as we got further away from the election, we sort of thought, okay, Trump's madness the madness of the king will exhaust itself at some point when it starts to become clear that he's played out all the string, that all of the challenges have failed, that all of the legal theories are bogus, that no one's standing up with him. But it hasn't happened. And in some sense, I know you saw that David Ignatius column in the Washington Post a few days ago talking about his continued concern on the basis of his reporting, that there's still danger, genuine danger that lies ahead. And I think, that's a separate topic. On the political front, a separate and very serious topic. On the political front, I agree with you about the Wall Street Journal, but in this case, and I say this, as you know, not a great fan of Moscow Mitch myself, but I think they're 100% right. The reality is, and we've said this on the show before, in any conventional runoff scenario, if you look at the way the votes were distributed in November in Georgia, you think about what normally happens in runoff elections, Republicans should be favored in both of those runoffs. And the reality right now is, on the basis of everything we've seen in terms of turnout, the early vote, and you've got Donald Trump, Lin Wood, and others down there creating a kind of chaos that is absolutely, we don't know yet what the final tally is going to be, obviously. But everything they are doing is working to depress Republican turnout rather than enhance Republican turnout. And so I think the Wall Street Journal is exactly right. We're into the crescendo of the crazy, but we're also into a period where Trump's madness may have a dire consequences, political consequences for the Republican Party as it heads into the Biden era, with potentially losing both of those runoffs in Georgia on January 5th.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the David Ignatius piece. If anyone else was like me off that day, it details something that I think all of us have probably heard from our friends who have or do work in national security functions, that there's still a lot of fear about what Donald Trump, as the country's commander-in-chief, is capable of in the final days. So, John, just leave those two things together, because I'm glad you raised it. What's happened to the Republican Party, and my problem with the Wall Street Journal is Mitch McConnell doesn't deserve being let off the hook for enabling 4 years of Donald Trump and the last 60 days of Donald Trump. So, I just find it amusing that they're trying to maybe hang on to his maybe minority leader slot for him, because we know how much he likes it. But I do want you to crystallize just how robbed the Republican Party is, not just of its soul and its principles, but of its purpose. If the Republican standard bearer is a threat to national security, the Republicans stand for less than nothing.
Yes, and of course, that's been amply demonstrated over the course of the last 4 years. That is what we have learned more than almost anything else, more than anything we've learned about Donald Trump, Nicole. I think the lesson of these 4 years is that Donald Trump did not stage a hostile takeover of the Republican Party, as so many of us said back in 2016, but that the Republican Party was a hollow, bankrupt, principle-less husk of what was a formerly great party when Donald Trump came along, and that Trump is very much not a cause, but a symptom of a deeper rot in the party. And we're seeing that right now in the most vivid way possible. This period in the post-election, the number of Republicans who have been willing to acquiesce in Trump's refusal to be part of the peaceful transition of power, his desire to continue to cling to power under any circumstances. And this is what the Ignatius column is about worrying signs that things are afoot, potentially, in the Department of Defense, in other agencies where where Trump is looking for excuses. Again, this is Ignatius's reporting that there's concerns among stalwart Trump defenders over the last 4 years inside the administration that even they are looking at Trump and saying he is looking for an excuse to cling to power. and they are looking at the moves inside the Pentagon at one point to try to separate the NSA from Cyber Command, to try to maybe take control of the FBI, to look for excuse, whether it's in terms of civil unrest fostered by Trump people on the streets of Washington potentially on January 6th, whether it's Iran and foreign activity that could provoke a crisis in foreign affairs. The Trump is looking desperately for something, anything, to justify doing the thing that most rational non-catastrophizers thought, well, in the end, he will do a lot of damage, but he will not actually try to cling to power and overstay January 20th. And the Ignatius column suggests that there is deep concern among, again, former longtime Trump loyalists, the most loyal of the loyalists internally, that they are looking at Trump and beginning to wonder and worry what he will actually do in January of this year. And I think that piece ties into the Georgia story in the sense that they are both symptoms of Trump's madness and the fact that all he cares about is himself and not about this party, and that the party is absolutely abjectly unwilling to stand up and say, enough, enough. There is something bigger than you. This party is bigger than you. You must stop behaving this way because there is a future beyond you. No one in the Republican Party right now, as a member in good standing, so to speak, is willing to stand up and say that to Donald Trump, to take that trip to the White House like Howard Baker with Richard Nixon in the 70s and say that to him. And that is ultimately the sign of the rot that I was talking about when I started this, when I uncorked this rather lengthy soliloquy in answer to your question.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.